Thank you, sir. Thank you, Olivier. Well, not that I want to get into an accent competition, but if you had a choice to listen to French or a Philadelphia accent, what are you picking? All right, well, Olivier started us off exactly right, both in terms of the challenge and the opportunity of climate change, and we're going to hit on both of those things now. So if it's okay with everybody, we'll dive in, and I'll just introduce our great panel as we pull them in to share all their secrets. Not already secret anymore. So let's start with Shelley Blackburn, and just to share with you, so Shelley leads customer sustainability solutions for Microsoft, and so she knows a thing or two about driving decarbonization while you preserve or even enhance the bottom line. We heard the stat, so 40% of emissions come from buildings, but we're privileged to be partnered with Microsoft in putting data to work to maybe turn that around, including the beautiful BIHA building in Sharjah. If you have a chance for a road trip, go see that building. It's gorgeous, going to net zero. But Shelley, you also have had finger on the pulse both of Microsoft's decarbonization journey and then supporting your customers. How is data and digitalization really figuring into that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Katie, and thanks everyone for joining us. I would say, first of all, just Microsoft's strategy and we've really been on this journey for quite some time, since 2009. And we're still on the journey, obviously, with where we are today. But I will say it started for us also just understanding where we could decarbonize as well. And the first place was within our buildings. And so back in 2012, in our campus in Redmond, we focused heavily on taking a look at what we could do quickly to decarbonize. And what we learned very quickly is this is a data problem. Oh. Funny thing that Microsoft is saying that, but we too had spreadsheets. We were not optimized to operationalize on how we decarbonized in our buildings. So the first course of action was really to build our data foundation. And once we did that, we then started looking at how do we build our smart buildings, putting sensors in. We put sensors in our HVAC, our fire extinguishers, everything. And that was really our first part of our journey. What we quickly then realized was we had over close to, I believe it was 500 million transactions. So we were collecting the data, but then how do you optimize efficiently all of that great data? And what we learned very quickly there was to be able to take this data and to automate it in a way allowed us, as we put AI, that was the first time we started to introduce AI into our journey. And we looked at how do we automate, but then how do we get to a point where we transform and we're able to predict? So that's really where we, on our journey, wanted to get to. That was our outcome, was how do we predict? How do we predict without having to have our fingers on everything? So this is, again, an area of our journey that we were quite honestly surprised about, is when I say prediction of understanding that perhaps our lighting or our HVAC was turned on where we really wanted it turned off. We wanted to have that impact. So again, that is where our journey started. And now we have continued to elevate where we moved from not only sensors in our older buildings and building really smart buildings, but also now anything from a new perspective.
So just picking up on that real quickly, because a key part of your role is to take it from the internal of Microsoft's experience and make it relevant to your full spectrum of customers. So are there segments out there of your customer base that is particularly seeing the value of what data and digital can do on carbon and bottom line?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, again, we've partnered with JCI to do this repeatable, what I'll call repeatable pattern that we've built. Now we're starting to bring that in other places. You mentioned BIHA as one customer where very quickly, again, realizing it's a data problem, we could help them with building their data on our digital platform, and then helping them figure out very quickly how to build a very smart decarbonizing environment. So that's one example. We also have done it in other buildings, our Beijing building with JCI. We've also worked on being able to build that type of platform and a real continued pattern where we can, again, introduce this. As it goes with other customers, here's what I would say. Number one, the smart buildings is a start. But number two, right now, all of our customers are saying, look, we just need help first getting the data in a foundational where we can measure, we can be smart about the data, and then we can move to automating and enhancing. And so that's really where we're at right now, is taking what we've learned as a customer zero, turning that into solutions that are repeatable, much like we're doing with JCI, and then bringing that to customer in a form of something we can offer with insights.
No, I think that's key, right? Because if it's some shiny one-off, that's not going to get us too far. But I think with that and bringing things to scale, if I could also introduce Mr. Khalid Al-Marzouki. Mr. Khalid is the CEO of Tabreed, and talk about at scale. Tabreed is bringing district cooling to just huge expanses. This region, now globally, the Burj Khalifa, for example, the Dubai Mall, we'll all stop by there before we leave. The World Trade Center and other incredibly important properties and examples. But you know, Khalid, as I think about cooling, we know that HVAC is the single largest slice of electricity demand and the single fastest growing. But cooling isn't a luxury, it's a need. So what's your experience in saying we're going to meet that cooling need even as we tackle climate change?
Right, I might start by adding another piece of information. They said that 40% of all the energy is consumed for cooling buildings, or buildings actually consume 40%. But on global scale, cooling actually accounts for 10% of the total energy in the world. So you can see just the magnitude of this one. In UAE, in our grid, it's about 70%.
Wow.
So that's a lot. We can even feel it in our own energy bills, power bills. So 70%, that's literally is a big number that you need to tackle. And one of the solutions is to head towards more efficient form of cooling, which is district cooling. By virtue of the design of the district cooling, it's almost 50% more efficient than regular air-cooled air conditioners you got, like your split units and what have you. Now, we tackle this matter in order to, there's an inherent efficiency in the district cooling in order for you to cool structures like Burj Khalifa, the Dubai Mall, the Louvre in Abu Dhabi, and all those buildings wouldn't be there if there wasn't district cooling, because you don't have to actually put large units, air-conditioned units. You just take them away from a plant, and there's the network underneath to supply them. But what we did, we took it even further. So what we did is, like Shirley alluded to, is towards the data collection. So since we are the original company that started district cooling here, we actually celebrated 25 years of existence here. That's when we started back in 1998, is to collect the data. We have well over 90 plants, but they were all scattered. So we collected all the data from all those plants and see where we can do with this data. Bring them together, and we looked at it two ways. There's outside parameters that not in our control, which is weather condition, and the profile of the customers, the demand side profile of the customers. And then there was the data we looked into within our plants itself. Which one is the best chiller unit, is it more efficient, our pumps, and of course I can say a lot of good things about JCI since we're here.
Oh, go on. We have extra time for that.
Right. And the towers. So once they collected all this data, we took a sample of the best operating plants. And this was the baseline for us to mimic that experience into, or roll them out into different plants. So this was almost like a 3 to 4 years of exercise to collect all these data. Now we have a very robust demand side prediction. We know which is the best performing equipment within our plants. So outside, demand side, and the wet bulb temperature, which is the prehistoric temperature profile, which everybody's saying is going up now. Good for the business, but not good for the environment, though. It's picking up like crazy. It's 1 point. We actually, from last year to this year, our data shows that we picked up, was it 3 degrees, Antonio? Almost 3 degrees, yeah. This is for the local in UAE. Just to shows how this global warming is a serious business. It really needs to be tackled. So from that perspective, when the data, this is where it helped us. And then there's, of course, the data we looked into, as I said before, is into the equipment itself, which was the best equipment, how to run them, when to run them. The fact that district cooling has one great advantage is that it has a thermal storage tank that you can store this energy, and you can release it whenever you want. You need it. So whether it's you want to shift the peak shifts in energy consumption, you want to use them in a two-tier tariff system, which we hope that we get in the near future in UAE, for us to take advantage of the lower tariffs and avoid emitting more hydrocarbon during the peak. And of course, it plays along in the energy transition. So for the time being, I guess our usage of data was very successful, and actually it was free. That's a good thing about it. You just collect these numbers and you implement it. It didn't cost us any money because we haven't changed anything in our hardware. It's just how we operate them and how we predict when to operate them, when not to operate them. So I think from that point of view, that's where data helped us. And then there's a hardware portion, which of course we rely on the manufacturers, JCI, to come up with new technologies and make their units more efficient, and that plays along, of course. And when you multiply these small increments in the size of the cooling that Tabreed provides, up 1.3 million tons. So you see this small percentage add up to very large numbers.
A large number, yeah. You're touching on something also, and just get yourself the kind of mental image of the district cooling and the loops that enable this efficient cooling to be delivered. One of the questions that we get often when we travel in Europe, for example, the building stock in Europe is older than the building stock in the United States, which is in some respects older than the building stock here with the fast and rapidly growing economy. But I think you're sharing examples where district cooling works, where a community may already even be built, you can still deliver the solution. But I'd ask you to speak to that a little bit, because it is a recurring question as to whether this is just about new communities or new buildings.
I see you're talking about retrofitting existing buildings. Yeah, I think the only drawback or hurdle will be getting the NOCs, no objection certificates, in order for you to dig up the roads and tunnel or bore the land underneath, just because at the end of the day you need to hook it up to a network. So it is a bit extensive, and it's best if it comes at the very early stage of the development. So if it's a developed nation, you're talking about old cities like Paris, or they do have their own district cooling in close to the Seine. But it is a challenge. But when it comes at the very early stage, it should be deployed just like any other utility, just like you run your gas lines, power lines, district cooling lines. So in Europe, in retrospect, yes, it's been there, but it was district heating. So they have, some of them are like maybe close to 100 years old as well. But the cooling now is let's say, the heating in this area. And you have to keep in mind that there are countries who are really embarking on district cooling, like huge, crazy numbers. Egypt, India, China. With this high urbanization that's happening there, you've seen great changes in Egypt and new developments coming up. And the only logical solution, and if you're talking about saving in generation and emitting carbon dioxides and whatever, is actually to go towards district cooling.
Right.
So we see them as very large markets. Egypt, Saudi, and India.
Right. Just on the heating aspect of district heating and cooling, two things. This part of the world too, and some of your projects really demonstrate that you still need hot water, so you can capture the heat that you're trying to get out of the building and put it to work. And in Europe, we also see waste heat from industrial processes, put that to work to displace tremendous amounts of fossil fuel that otherwise would be needed. Adam, I wanted to bring you into the conversation. Adam Gordon, who helps to run the UN Global Compact. I think a number of our companies are proud signatories to the UN Global Compact and really driving corporate engagement on the Sustainable Development Goals. So we just, I think this week, maybe yesterday, flying overnight, I'm not sure what day it is, but we released a major new study that we did with Forrester. And Forrester surveyed, I think, 3,500 corporate leaders, 18 different countries, 25 different industries. And here's the good news. They said 2/3 of them, hey, we feel like we're on a good trajectory in meeting the carbon commitments we've made. Now, another 2/3 said to accelerate towards fully being successful, we feel like we need new partnerships, new technologies. You speak to these corporate leaders every day. What can we expect? I mean, is corporate leadership in the world on track, focused, moving, or are there some currents that might be causing people to have to focus on other priorities?
Thank you, Katie. It's a great question, and thank you to Johnson Controls for welcoming myself and the Compact. I think before I address the question, for those of us in the room that aren't familiar with the UN Global Compact, is a little more background. We're the Secretary General's Corporate Sustainability Initiative. We're over 20 years old, and over the past 20 plus years, we have grown to be the world's largest corporate sustainability initiative with over 22,000 signatories in 160 plus countries. I have the pleasure, the honor to run the US for the Compact, but of course we have local networks in every country around the world that matters, and the UAE, we have a great local network. It's really interesting to hear about the Forrester study. I think what it comes down to, and this is really the idea we have to rest on, is profitability and sustainability go hand in hand. And when you really look at it philosophically, what is business about but doing more with less? That is fundamentally what sustainability is. And so there is business leadership, JCI, other companies, Microsoft, that are demonstrating what corporate leadership looks like in the space. But we don't collectively win if there are winners and losers in sustainability. It's something that requires collaboration and working together, pre-competitive collaboration. And so when we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, for instance, we are woefully off track in achieving them, not simply keeping to a 1.5 degree climate pathway, but really across the board. We're, as of recently, we're 15% the way there to achieving the SDGs. So we believe at the Compact we need businesses to go forward faster. Governments will come together, they'll come up with a lot of great solutions, but ultimately business knows how to implement solutions. We have the solutions, the technologies. We need the business models to do it, and I think the collaboration from those business leaders that are doing it well, because they are, and really trying to bring their whole industry along, their whole communities, their whole market, that's really what's needed next.
Yeah. I wonder, Mr. Khalid, if you wanted to pick up on that a little bit. We have found at Johnson Controls that the partnership here with the UAE government is really extraordinary. And George has set a high bar for us now. I also run government relations for Johnson Controls. And he says, well, when I sat down with the UAE officials, all of them were talking about their KPIs and the economic growth that they had to achieve this year. When am I going to hear other government officials talking about that? But is there an important partnership here where you see the kind of technologies you're bringing to the market helped along and favored by the government as well?
Well, one of them might be a very the latest live example will be us tapping into the geothermal energy. I mean, this is something that theoretically we know it's there, but it's never been utilized on a large scale. So thankfully, with the cooperation we had with Johnson Controls, we actually implemented it, and the plant is up and running and commissioning, and commissioned. And actually, the feedback we got from the president of the COP28 himself, Dr. Sultan, in his words, he said, "Now you got me excited." So that's where and of course he was that time he was with the Minister of Energy as well, Mr. Suhail Al-Mazroui as well, to look and see the potential of what geothermal can bring, because this is a really is one of the sustainable solutions when it comes to tackle a major power consumption or a load on our grid, which is cooling. So having implement this, we were very super excited about it. We actually were pushing for that to make it happen, because we need to show that, okay, there's a technology, you have to push the technology by implementing it, getting the data, and once you get the data and you get the know-how, the knowledge, then you can upscale it, roll it out, and there's the belief that it's doable. And this is something I really want to show to everybody. So the showcase is there, and of course everybody is welcome to visit the plant. It's in Masdar City in Abu Dhabi. And I think it might be a centerpiece with this upcoming COP28, that it is actually showcasing the usage of geothermal. I know that our friends in Saudi Arabia are very interested in using it, because they have a huge potential of using a geothermal. The good thing about it, it's renewable, and it works.
Yeah.
It actually worked beyond our expectation.
Up and running in 10 months. Wow. Quite an accomplishment. Now, speaking about doing things at scale, let me introduce to everyone Dr. Waleed Al-Nuaimi. And Dr. Waleed is CEO of Etihad, which is a super ESCO here in the region, and talk about delivering efficiency at scale. And I know from our conversation earlier, you are bringing a combination of scale to be able to drive energy consumption down, but innovative business models that directly work for the bottom line of your customer base. And I think you're putting data to work as well. So Dr. Waleed, when you hear some of the statistics we're talking about here, that number of buildings being 40%, it seems like there'd be a silver lining flip side to that, which is that there must be a heck of a lot of efficiency that we could be tapping into and putting to work. How are you using innovation to grab that efficiency and put it to work?
And integrated approach, and it needs the commitment from the leadership. It needs the collaboration between departments, and most importantly, the engagement of all stakeholders. It's an ongoing journey where we have to set targets, interim targets, and to be revisited, reassessed, in order to achieve or to follow with the trend of the market and the evolving technologies that's coming up. There are different trends that derive the goal for the energy efficiency. As you said, we have to look at it from a comprehensive point of view. The design for the building technologies, the smart ones, the energy efficient HVAC systems, the integrated renewable powers. We look at the involvement or the inhabitants or the whoever is living. I mean, the people, the community, where they have to change their behaviors in order to help implement and achieve those goals. Data analytics and the performance monitoring is one of the major aspects that we look at in order to see what we are achieving and to monitor how far are we there. I think if we look at organizations, if they look at the comprehensive approach, they can reach to the best practices. And again, I say we have to keep up with the evolving technologies where we can implement the best practices at the best period of time.
So I'm wondering, Dr. Waleed, for those who may not be as familiar with the ESCO model, and coming back to this issue we have where people are worried, is there some insurmountable upfront cost? I'm not sure I can get going. You know, we're still worrying about a recession. Is that going to come? But the ESCO model helps people figure that out. And I wonder if you might share a little of that.
We're lucky in UAE with the support of the leadership. We're funding our own projects as performance energy projects. We come up with the best solution, comprehensive for the client. What we do is we tackled first the most entities that's utilizing energy to capture the biggest energy saving in the market. Most of the entities doesn't have the budget in place for implementing those projects. So what we do is we fund those projects for the period of the project, where we repay our investment through the saving only. So no capex, no opex burden on the client. I mean, some of them say it's too good to be true, but the issue is convincing the clients.
Yeah.
They still don't trust, is it possible to be done or not? And they're still hesitant, and the fear of change is always there. But the minute you do a pilot part for them and they see the benefits of that, they're all in, and they're hungry for more.
They're all in. Well, I think just a very important lesson, a double important lesson in terms of if you're worried about your bottom line, run into efficiency and decarbonization, because you're going to drop some change to help your bottom line. And don't worry about that upfront cost, because there are innovative financial models and incredible partners like Etihad out there that will enable you to move.
A debate point is, every day you're losing a saving. That's what we tell them. And some contract negotiations takes a year. And when we meet with the top management and we just show them the numbers of what you could have saved within this year of negotiations, that's a loss for you, a loss of saving.
Right. Wow. Well, great message. Absolutely. And so let me also introduce my colleague, Mark Reinbold. And Mark has a mission similar to Shelley's, where I said to him, we have the reverse jobs, because since I and my friend Renee Kizar, who's here, drive our emissions as a company down, I'm about numbers down. Mark is about numbers up in working with customers to deliver sustainability solutions, and he does that globally. So Mark, we've heard a lot here of great insights. This is not the way we want to achieve energy efficiency, folks.
We'll shut that off.
But we have heard some incredible innovations around efficiency. We've heard about data and digitalization.
Sure.
It's a trifecta, though, and I think electrification is piece of the equation. And I know you're delivering amazing projects that harness heat pumps, for example, but I also know that your experience isn't different than Dr. Waleed's in terms of customers saying, yeah, but I can't, but I'm not sure, but how do you solve it?
Yeah, it's a fabulous question, and one that we wrestle with. And I think the thing that we have to all come to grips with is we've got to take our intentions, and we have talked about a lot of great intentions and a lot of great plans, and turn them into action. Turn them
That's
into
what
action.
this summit is about. That's
Absolutely.
what COP is about.
And one of the, you mentioned it, Katie, one of the best ways that we can take action first in a building is to electrify it. Mm-hmm. And one of the best ways to electrify a building is to use a heat pump. And we've deployed many, many heat pumps and deployed them on an outcome basis. So for those of you who are not familiar with the heat pump technology inside the building, think about all of the heat that's generated in the building that we generally, package it up through HVAC system and we move it outside. And that all goes to waste. If we can harness all of the heat that we're moving out and wasting and put it to use with a heat pump, it's so incredibly efficient. And that efficiency turns into dollars. That efficiency turns into the very things that we've been talking about here, which is, how do you do these things in electrified buildings and become efficient, but do it in an economical manner, and do it in a way that provides ROI and provides a great payback. So, we like to talk about this as contracted outcomes and a way to deliver what we're talking about. So, at the end of the day, if we can, take what we're calling contracted outcomes and move away from looking at projects on a first cost basis and looking at just what it costs to put the technology in, but then start to move to what is the total return on investment over the life cycle of the project. then the energy efficiency, the operational savings start to really kick in, and all of a sudden you start to make very, very different decisions on the front end of the project. Okay, so back to heat pumps. Why don't we see heat pumps in every project? Why don't we see them in all new buildings? Beyond some of the, just the technical aspects of that, most of the time, our contracting process doesn't facilitate us spending the extra dollars up front to put a heat pump in. Most of the time, first cost rules, and we start to see that value engineering takes place. And those technologies like digital, like heat pumps, like electrified buildings start to get basically out of the
Cutting room
projects.
floor?
Cutting room floor, right? So we like the idea of then saying instead of looking at that first cost piece on its own, let's talk about what is the outcome that you want, total ROI, total life cycle of the building, contract for that. Even go as far as saying, I want a net zero building, deliver it for me. And if we can do that, and then we can start to look at the net present value of all of those choices over the life cycle of the building, we'll make those very different choices. So
Maybe on the front end, we partner with Dr. Waleed there, and he'll provide the upfront financing too.
100%. But a couple, just a quick story about this. We're working with some of the largest global automakers right now, and some of they're building some massive plants to build EV batteries, and the automakers are absolutely focused on speed of implementation as fast as they can get to it. So that value engineering that I was talking about kicked in a big way. We saw one of those automakers building a 7.5 million square foot factory that did not have energy controls, did not have building automation in the building. Why did that happen? First cost drove it out. When we moved that automaker from a traditional construction process to one where we focused on outcomes, all of a sudden building controls are back in the project. All of a sudden now phase 2 is going to be how do we put solar on top of that 7.5 million square feet. So this can have a really, really dramatic impact
Delivering the bottom
on
line,
how
yeah.
we deliver the bottom line.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, now we're going to move with speed right here, and I know that our friend Svenja gave you a tough test, which is 3 words that sum up the wisdom and message. Now, I'll let you say 4 or 5. But bottom line, in terms of what you hope corporations visiting with us here and delegates to COP take away in terms of how you'd like to see us all move the needle. And let me start with you, Mr. Khalid.
For me, will be more adoption of district cooling, because simply it's the most efficient way for cooling. It's enough said on that one. 0.85 kilowatts for a ton of cooling as opposed to 1.4, I think just sums it up, or 1.2. It just sums it up. More adoption of more technologies added to it, like geothermal, heat pumps would drive that efficiency even further. Second will be legislations for the lawmakers and the people who set up the rules that, okay, that district cooling as being the most efficient one is not an option. Okay, it has to be implemented. Third will be pushing the boundaries of technology. It's not that we cannot sit on our laurels and think this is it. No, there's definitely a room for more and more. I'm sure of that.
Awesome.
So those are the 3.
Look at that, 3. Adopt district cooling. Ooh. Adam.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking about the example of the challenges of value engineering versus sustainability engineering, and how ultimately to build with a value engineering profile, you actually are doing worse business. You're spending more money. And while we're all here together in Dubai, all the governments of the world, what I'm reminded of is that business will save the world. And they'll do it not because it's the right thing to do, but because there's money to be made. Right.
Profit and planet.
Yeah. I need to bring you around with me to summarize.
I'm not going to get to Dr. Waleed.
If we don't do it together, it cannot be done. I think everyone have to see where he's responsibility lies, and pitch in because that will count.
We're all in.
We're all in. We're all in.
Shelley?
Get your data estate in order. 2, I would say invest to save. And 3, use technology to transform.
There you have it. I think you captured so many of the messages. That invest to save is what you're talking about too.
I love it.
All right, you have to pick it up from there.
Well,
You're up.
we have speed and urgency. We need to act with speed and urgency right out of the gate.
Look at how efficient this guy is. He gets 3 words and he does it in 2. Will you join me in thanking our panel? Yay! And as we are exiting the stage, hot news right off the presses, all of our colleagues here have, as you can see, been award winners in many ways in driving sustainability. And for us at Johnson Controls, we're especially pleased because today we get to spotlight another additional hero, and that is our 2023 Open Blue Pioneer of the Year Award. And my friend Mark Van Diepenbeek, drum roll please, is going to tell us all of that good news. Thank you, everybody.